Well, it was kind of like an answer to the NWO. Remember the NWO, where
Oh yeah.
Hogan came over. Vince let Hogan go, and I think Savage went over. I think they were calling the Hulk the Huckster, and I forget what they were calling Randy. They were making fun of him. But anyway, that was the only time I think that WCW was actually beating Vince. The NWO thing was getting over pretty well. And Vince was losing. He was losing the ratings war at the time, and Corny was working for Vince. He was one of the advisors, and Corny wanted to come up with a thing. The NWA or NWO was basically the WCW was being invaded by the WWE. So Corny was trying to put together, well, let's do it the other way around. Let's have the WWE being invaded by the NWA. And of course, I was synonymous with the NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance, the original body that formed, right around the beginning of the 1900s when they had like Frank Gotch was the champion. And anyway, and Corny called me about it. Said we want to do a thing where we're, like an answer to the NWO. And I said, sure, I'd love it. And he said, we'd like to have you do these shows in Dallas, Texas, and then Waco, if you remember, where the Branch Davidians were killed, Waco, Texas. The Monday show, of course, was Raw, and the Tuesday show would be the SmackDown show. And I said, sure, Corny, I'd love to do it. And he said, okay, I'll get back with you. And I hung up the phone and I started laughing like crazy. I thought, very funny, Corny. Yeah, Vince is going to hire me with my neck. But I knew he'd call me back, and damned if he didn't call me back about a week and a half later. Tommy, it's all set. We're going to FedEx the plane tickets to you. You'll be coming in here to do we'll do the Raw show, and then the following night you'll do the SmackDown show. And I remember telling him, Corny, does Vince know what happened to me? Does he know I have a partial disability, that I had to leave the business, that I don't belong in the ring? And Corny wouldn't answer me. He says, everything's going to be fine. Nobody's going to be touching you or nothing. And I thought, well, it isn't so much that I'm worried about somebody touching me. I'm afraid that I'm going to get carried away and do something I shouldn't do. And but I thought, okay, if you want to do this, but I'm telling you right now, you guys are taking a chance with me. And at the time, I was 49, just getting ready to turn 50 because it was early 98. So actually, I was 50. I was going to be 51 that year because I was born in 47. So, I was 50 years old and still in reasonably good condition. It's been a long time now. I mean, that's almost 20 years ago. And it seems like it was just yesterday. But he sends me the tickets. And I took off from work because I was working for a dealership here, a Toyota dealership. I was driving their parts truck. And they gave me the time off. Go get him, Tommy. And I remember I'm driving to the airport, and I'm thinking, what are you doing? You don't belong in the ring. What the hell are you doing? And yet I'm going. And I get down there, and Earl and David are both there, and everything was taken care of. I mean, plane ticket, hotel, even the cab to and from the building. The only thing that wasn't taken care of was the booze. And they fed you during the day, so that was taken care of too. So I mean, it went off without a hitch. The very first night, I was introduced, as invading the WWE. Corny put me over like crazy. Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler were doing it at the time, and I did a match between the Rock and Rollers and these kids called the Headbangers, a couple of nice guys who were also at WrestleCade, along with everybody was at WrestleCade this last Thanksgiving. There was a ton of guys there, but anyway, so I did that match. and then did another match later where Barry Windham, you know Barry, he was teaming with a guy named Bradshaw, John Layfield now. They were kind of like the new Blackjacks or something, but he turned on him, and Layfield came down swinging a bell, and we all bailed out of the ring. And we did that Monday, and then on Tuesday, I go down the ramp to do the return match between the Rock and Rollers and the Headbangers. And Sergeant Slaughter, who's an old friend and lives only about 125 miles away up in Burlington, North Carolina, he comes down with Earl. And they get in the ring, and you are not a WWE official. You're from the NWA. You have to leave. You're not reffing. And I told Sarge, I said, grab me, Sarge, because I started, going for Earl like I want to fight him. Although if Earl got a snoot full of booze, he'd kick Tommy Young all over the ring. But they didn't know that. But anyway, Sarge grabbed me. And anyway, we got into a big argument, and we're arguing all the way up the ramp, and Sarge is pantomiming, and I'm yelling. I'm saying, Sarge, let him hear us. Let the fans hear us. So I'm yelling, and he's not saying anything. He's just pantomiming. And anyway, we walked up the ramp. I never reffed that night. I just went to the ring and did not ref. I just simply walked back out, and that was the end of it. And got good money for those two shows. And like I was saying earlier, they were going to actually give me some house shows here in Carolina before somebody woke up and said, wait a minute, Tommy Young, he sued Turner. And we can't use him. And Corny called up apologizing, Tommy, we're going to have to back out of those bookings that you had. I said, well, now you guys have finally come to your senses. I can't believe you guys ever let me in the ring in the first place. But everything went off without a hitch. And it wasn't a live show that night either, because back then, they still have it. They got that Westminster Dog Show that they have every year in New York, and it's a big thing. And when they have it, it knocks wrestling off. Wrestling is taped that night. I mean, it's live for the fans, of course, but the actual show was taped. So it wasn't a live show on TV. It was, I think it was shown on the weekend. And my nephew called me up and said, I just saw you in the ring. Are you back? And I said, no, it was just a one-time thing. And that's all it was. That's all I ever did for them. The only other thing I did was they sent a camera crew here, like I said, to interview me for the Steamboat video. Never did anything with me for the Flair video. But that's okay. But I worked for Vince a couple times, very good. That's why I was so stunned when the guy ran me out of the building the way he did. I'll never understand what happened there, but it was really humiliating. I mean, Bearer's looking at me while the guy's walking out. He's got his arms up in the air like, what's going on? I don't know. And that was the end of it. So I haven't been back there since. Still ticked off about it. But what do you do? So somebody had it in for me that night, and they ran me out of there. It can humble you real quick, let me tell you.